The hymn that we are using as the basis of our study this week, Let the Beauty of Jesus Be Seen in Me, contains both direct and indirect references to our language, to the type of words that we use in our communication with others. For example, in the fourth verse, the song speaks of letting the beauty of Jesus be seen in all that we say, and also to keep those things sweet. Then in the third verse, the song speaks of remembering how Jesus was treated when someone speaks some word that pierces us through. Well, clearly the implication is that we should show the same restraint that Jesus showed in his speech. But what kind of words characterized the speech of Jesus? Well, first, we find that Jesus used gracious words. Luke records in Luke 4:22, "So all bore witness to him, and marveled at the gracious words which proceeded out of his mouth." Just think of the words that Jesus spoke from the cross. For those who had shouted for him to be crucified, he prayed, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do," Luke 23:34. To the woman who was taken in the act of adultery and cast down at his feet for sentencing and stoning, Jesus told her to go and sin no more in John 8 and verse 11. It should not surprise us that Jesus spoke gracious words. After all, the mouth speaks from the abundance of the heart, Matthew 12:34. And when John spoke of the incarnation of Christ, he described Jesus as being full of grace, John 1:14. And since Jesus was full of grace, then that is what came forth from his mouth, gracious words. If we have the mind and the heart of Christ, then grace is what's going to come forth from our mouths as well. In Colossians, Paul wrote, "Let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt, that you may know how you ought to answer every man." Colossians 4 and verse 6. We also find that Jesus used thoughtful words. Jesus said, "But I say to you, that for every idle word that men may speak, they will give account of it in the day of judgment. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned." Matthew 12:36 and 37. The word idle means lazy and useless. And idle words are words that are uttered without thought. Now, we must give great thought to the words that we use because, as we're told, the power of death and life is contained in those words. Life was in the words of Jesus. He declared, "It is the Spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit, and they are life." John 6:33. But what about our words? Do we give the necessary thought to our words before we speak? Are we slow to speak? Do our words tend toward life, or do they tend toward death? Also, we find that Jesus used true words. Peter wrote, "For to this you were called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example, that you should follow in his steps, who committed no sin, nor was deceit found in his mouth." 1 Peter 2:21 through 23. Now, deceit means bait or treachery. And on many occasions, Jesus dealt with those who were trying to catch him in his words. They were baiting him with their words and their questions. But they never caught Jesus because his words were always full of truth. In fact, John 14 and verse 6 tells us that Jesus is truth. Often in the Gospels, Jesus used the words verily or truly or most assuredly to make a statement. Jesus had a reputation for truth. Matthew records, "Then the Pharisees went and plotted how they might entangle him in his talk. And they sent to him their disciples with the Herodians, saying, 'Teacher, we know that you are true, and teach the way of God in truth.'" Matthew 22:15 through 17. Well, the context makes clear that those asking this question did not have pure intentions. They were likely using flattery to try to gain an advantage with Christ. But their assessment could not have been more accurate. If the beauty of Jesus is going to be seen in our speech, then we are going to have to speak true words. In Proverbs, we find wisdom declaring, "For my mouth will speak truth. Wickedness is an abomination to my lips. All the words of my mouth are with righteousness. Nothing crooked or perverse is in them." Also in Ephesians, Paul wrote, "Wherefore, putting away lying, speak every man truth with his neighbor." Friends, we want to thank you for joining us for our program today. We pray that you will Give serious attention to these things that we've discussed, and that God will bless you with a wonderful day.